Good morning. We are with Marcello Viglino, Salini Pregilo, for our professor in our module number 9, Introduction to Claim Management for Feed-in Contracts, for him to tell us something about his professional and academic background.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me and taking part in this course. And I'm an engineer by background. Mm-hmm. I graduated many years ago in Cagliari University in structural engineering. And however, very soon during my career, when I started working for international contractor, I developed an interest in contracts and the relationship between the parties, the application of the contract conditions to the various situations under which you can find yourself if you are in a construction site. So I went to England first, and I continued studying engineering in terms of developing my engineering skills, but more and more the career then developed into contract. And eventually I started doing a master's in construction law and dispute resolution, which I did when I was already working for an international contractor that at the time was not Salini Pregilo. Mm-hmm. Now I work for Salini Pregilo, and I work in the International Contracts Department. What we do is we look after the various projects from the contract points of view. Mm-hmm. And we start from the time when a tender is launched. So we look at the risks, we look at the contracts, we look at the differences from the various standard situation in which we are used to find ourselves. And if there are particular risks, then we've got to assess whether we can price those risks or whether we can just say, well, that's too much for us. Mm-hmm. That's part of what we do in the contracts department. And then the rest is basically looking after the contract, supporting the project managers, the area managers, and the site contracts managers that deal with the correspondence, deal with the claims. We want to make sure that the claims are put together properly, that the notices are given on time, and then when we start a dispute, that the dispute is looked after properly, whether this is a dispute that goes before a dispute board or whether this is a dispute that goes in arbitration. Mm-hmm. We manage the process internally, but then we also use experts and lawyers, external professionals that can help us to...
and when do lawyers get contacted and involved in this process? Well, there's nothing else to do.
Well, when it comes to the day-to-day management of the contract, we just do it in-house. Mm-hmm. If there's any specific legal issue that is very important, like you want to know whether you've got grounds for a termination, or whether there is anything that you can do to unblock the situation that has become difficult in a project, then you do seek legal advice. This legal advice can be international, depends on the issues, or perhaps very often is local legal advice, because we have to remember that wherever we go, we've got a contract. It can be a FDIC contract, but that contract is to be read within the applicable law. So legal advice from people that are expert in the law of the country is very important.
Sure. Okay, thank you very much, Marcello. Would you tell us a couple of words also about the contents of your lesson today?
Yes, today my lesson was about clauses 14 to 19 of the FIDI contract. I've used as a reference the harmonized edition of FIDIC published in 2010, which is what all the students had available. So clause 14 basically deals with payment. So the payment mechanism under FIDIC clause 14. Then clause 15 deals with the termination by the employer of the contract. Clause 16 deals with termination by the contractor, and therefore under which situations you can terminate the contract, which is a very serious step to take in a construction contract. So you want to make sure you do it properly, and you've got to have very good grounds. Then I went to discuss clause 17, risk and responsibilities, 18, insurances under the contract, and then clause 19 was force majeure. It was a general view of these clauses with some case studies and typical examples that are generally derived from my experience in a number of projects.
Okay. So, thank you very much. Very helpful. I think we will meet again in January, next January, right?
Yes, next January we will be discussing dispute boards, enforcement of dispute boards decisions, and something about UK adjudication.
Perfect. See you then. So,
thank you.
Thank you very much.